Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's Truth Talk again. Oh, I am so excited. I'm so very excited. First of all, I do the 1 minute, like, let's let everybody kind of get in here. And I know that it's a Sunday fun day, so people are scattered to the winds, but it's no worries. Come on in when you can, or if you're watching this on the replay, thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you. I started Truth Talk, oh gosh, back in 2020. So I've been doing this on again, off again for about 5 years. I find incredible people that have blessed my life in some way, shape, or form. And today we have Miss Cherie. She is one of my very, very good friends and chosen family. And Truth Talk here is all about being vulnerable and sharing pieces of our lives that we're feeling like we want to, so that we can find that strength for in our vulnerability for others out there that might be going through something similar. So without further ado, I want to ask for those that are visiting today to please hit that subscribe button. It costs you nothing, but it costs me everything. So please, please, please help me be seen and help this channel going by hitting the subscribe button and the bell if you want, so that you know when more of these Truth Talks are coming, because there's going to be another one very soon. So you're going to want to smash the bell. And without further ado, Cherie, how are you, my friend?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I've been busy, but good busy. I don't know how to describe it. You know, we've got levels. We got levels of busy. And I'm going into a 2 week of super busy. And so this is my like Zen, let's get everything together. Let's get myself organized so that I can handle the next 2 weeks. That's my busy.
I understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, welcome to Truth Talk. So I met you. Oh my gosh. I can't, it's got to be 22, either 21 or 22. I
Yeah,
can't I can't quite remember when Sabbath Social first got going. I think it was in 21, because in 2022 we did our soft open, or like our grand open, in at two different times or whatever. But you were at one of our second events, our annual picnic, and it
mhm.
was, I know that you would come with Lex and some others and part of Kimmy's coven, and we've sort of meshed in. We've kind of intertangled ourselves between y'all's coven and Sabbath Social. There's like so many members, and I love that we got to roll that way.
Me too. I think
Yeah.
it's been nice to, yeah, to have those additional people, and they've become
Mhm.
so close, and they mean so much to me, and I know that the rest of the coven feels the same way, and we enjoy the time we get to spend together, and
Excuse me.
yep, and it enriches our lives. It enriches everyone's life when you share that.
It does.
So
It
yeah.
does. Here, I'm old, coughing like crazy. I apologize. Um, so, Sherry, you want to share
Yes.
something here on Truth Talk. What do you want to talk about today?
I want to talk about, and this kind of all piles together. Getting older. I'm 68, and I'm still working full time nights. Um, and I started. I about December. I started redoing my bedroom. I wanted to make a place where I could meditate and sit and read. I I'm a witch. So when I do my psychopomp work, when I do an intuitive reading for someone, I sit in my mother's rocking chair and I rock. And
Oh,
so
wow.
the house we had before this was what we rented was over 3,000 square feet. So I had a separate room that had my temple and my workspace, and um, and I've missed that.
Mhm.
And so I started tearing my bedroom apart. Um, I started downsizing, so I've gotten rid of a lot of the clothing I don't wear any longer. I'm getting rid of a lot of things I've just had that I don't use.
Mhm.
Um, and I bought a new bed frame that has an attached bookcase or attached shelves to it. and that showed up 2 weeks earlier than they told me it would. So then, and I have a small house. It's not even 1,000 square foot. And so they had these two gigantic boxes in the middle of the living room. And so then I made the mistake of tearing open those two boxes to, hey, I want to see what it is. And so then
Uh,
I now have pieces of this um, new bed set all over the house. And and I have a bit of an anxiety, and I have clinical depression, but I have a bit of anxiety that crops up when I really don't want it to, and I suddenly started feeling completely overwhelmed. I
mhm,
didn't know what to do, where to start. um,
mhm.
and so my partner had come. She isn't always here. She's up taking care of her dad who's got cancer. She came home, and we pulled out my old bed and dressers. Now my bed was about 3 foot off the floor because it was on on the top of three dressers, my
Oh,
mattress. And so let me tell you, they were 6 drawer dressers, so I had 18 drawers of stuff.
you're
Yeah.
like, "Why put all this crap?"
I
Right?
I started emptying drawers, and I'm like, okay. And so it is now all over my living room. Um, I've got a pile, and I do mean a pile in my bedroom. Um, but we got the dressers out, and that's as far as we got that weekend because we're both in our 60s, and having to haul this stuff out was not easy, let me tell you. As you
Mhm.
age, stay in shape. That's the only thing I can
That's
tell you.
yeah.
So and then it just sets because I do work nights. So, and I work as I'm an instrument operator at a clinical laboratory. So I'm on my feet and moving all night long. So when I come home, I'm pretty useless. And so everything just stayed the way it's been all through January
Mhm.
and all through February. And Julia came home again, and we did get my bed put together this past weekend. So I now have a bed to sleep in. So I was sleeping on a cot in my room. Yeah. So I'm laughing because if I cry, at one point I came so close it's probably a good thing I didn't live in an apartment where we had a dumpster, because I probably would have drug all the bed frame out and just thrown it away and slept on the floor on a mattress. Um, and so we did get the bed together. So I've got a bed. I'm very happy with it. And I still have pieces of the shelving all over the house. And I bought a new dresser. Um, and I put that together. I bought a smaller dresser because I didn't have enough room in the first one. And I took 8 garbage bags of clothes to the donation the other week, and I've got more. I'm like, yeah. Part of part of this depression apparently is me deciding that if I buy something, I'll feel better, um, which
Mhm.
a lot of people do. I'm not alone in that, and I'm not beating myself up over it. I'm just, so now I'm along with trying to go through boxes and um, get my house back. Um, I'm trying to stop myself from buying stuff. So when I see something, and I'm on TikTok. I don't post anything, but I keep seeing these. I saw this really nice strawberry quartz bracelet, so I had to buy that. And I did manage not to buy the "fuck Trump" sign language T-shirt, but it was close. Um, yeah. So I just, so I'm trying to, so I need to find other things to do along with this. Is, growing older. My mom used to tell me growing older isn't for sissies. And I used to laugh at her, and I realize what she means,
Yeah.
because everything's harder to do. I'm overweight, and I had, and this is a bad thing, is prior to unboxing everything and moving everything out, I had started doing chair yoga on a video format. And then I started doing some free weights and doing some squats. And I lost about 15 pounds and I was feeling really better. And then I tore my house apart and I don't have room to do the chair yoga and I don't have room to do the weights. And I've put all the weight back on it. So it's been a real battle.
Mhm.
Um, sometimes it's like I have been heavy all my life. I through my 30s and 40s, I'd got because I was in the Air Force Reserves. I managed to keep the weight off. I was pretty fit. Um,
Mhm.
I got out of the reserves, and slowly the weight came back on. And
But that's also part of aging too.
it is part of aging, and it's
Mhm.
um, and I never really paid attention to what I ate. If I wanted a hamburger, I ate that. I ate all the chocolate I could. I'm an ice cream addict.
Oh, I love ice cream. Oh,
Yes,
it doesn't
and
love me back though.
yeah, well, I'm kind of getting that way. I it doesn't, because I don't drink milk, but I like ice cream. I like cheese, and I'm noticing that that is not my body doesn't really like it anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and so I have this really bad habit because I'm a Sagittarian, um, and of when I want to change something, instead of changing just like one thing or gradually doing it, I leap in the I leap in the deep end. I buy all this vegan food that I'm going to cook and then it all rots, you
Yeah.
know, because I'm too tired to cook. I, you know,
Mhm.
I just, I'm sorry. I sound like I'm just whining, but it's this, you
No.
know, talking about it helps because it helps me see where I can make the changes. And, you
And you're
know,
not alone. You're not alone in that. Not at
No,
all.
I know, I've talked to friends and they're like, "Oh yeah, I do that too." It and I want to blame part of our society for that because um
Mhm.
if if you really watch the commercials, if they're pushing, they're constantly telling us, "Oh, buy this, you'll feel better. Buy this, you'll feel better. Buy this, will make your life better." And then on the other hand, they're this very nasty underlying premise that women, once you hit menopause, you're
Mhm.
done. There you have, you become invisible. Now I
Yeah.
can tell you that um, since I hit 55, men have stopped hitting on me unless they're really old, and I find that wonderful because I never enjoyed that. I was
Yeah.
always it was not comfortable for me even when I was in my 20s. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
So that to me, I was like, woohoo, they're not going to bother me anymore. Occasionally I have some 80-year-old man walk by and wink at me and say, "Can I have your number?" I'm like, "Oh my God, no." you know, um, just leave me alone. I've gotten to this age. I should be left alone now. Okay. Um, but yeah, so what I was telling you about losing words, losing thoughts, that
Mhm.
happens a lot. I am training a young woman. My job, not that I'm leaving it anytime soon, I had asked for help because they've added another instrument into what I was responsible for. And she's young, she's in her 20s, she's incredibly sharp. And she's a go getter. She works constantly. Um,
Mhm.
and she is, so I'm like trying to explain something to her and the words not coming. And I'm really thankful that I think she is Southeast Asian, and they still very much honor their elders. And she
Mhm.
just stands there very quietly and waits while I finally find the word and go, "Oh, it's this. That's what I was trying to tell you." Da 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 da. You know.
I've
So.
noticed that for me, I mean, and now this is my year of 50, and you were at my 50th birthday, um,
Mhm.
having fun in Bend, Oregon. But what I'm finding for me is I'm losing stuff constantly.
Mhm.
Most of what I'm doing is finding whatever it was I lost, then trying to figure out what word I was trying to say. Um, and
Yes.
also, like, I feel like now I have ADD or something. Like, like at work, I'm a good worker. And I've always prided myself on being able to grasp whatever was happening or the process pretty quickly. I may have to have a few notes, but it's like it takes a little bit longer for things to click for me now. I have to
Yes.
be a little bit um I have to be patient with myself. I have to be patient with myself because I know that I'm just not able to take on as much information as I did. Multitasking, I used to run circles around people. Now I'm like, let me sit down. We can talk about it. I'm
Yeah.
not doing it very well anymore. I'm just not.
Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned ADD because I started because I was starting to feel like that. I'm like, oh my God, am I late onset ADD? I can't, I don't have a brain. I have not one thought. I have 25, and
I'm
none of them
right.
are relevant, and they're not
Right.
connected.
No. And then
And
I find myself when I do like partake of the witch's cabbage in an edible form that I have really good thoughts and ideas that don't happen when I don't. And so I literally on my phone have a little like post-it note that I write this stuff down on. I've got really good ideas.
yeah, me too. I do that going to work. I'll grab my phone and hit the microphone and blah blah blah.
Uh-huh.
I'll hit the microphone and talk because I'm
Yep.
driving to work. And then I get to
Yep.
work and look at it and I'm like, I wonder what the hell I was trying to say because it doesn't always understand what I'm saying. And then one time I forgot to turn down the radio. So I got to work and like interspersed with what this thought that was a really good thought. It was a great idea. Is the verses to the song that was playing on my radio. I'm like, okay,
I love it. I love
yeah.
it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. I know that you had said, and I said, well, let's say it out loud. You know, you were a little nervous because you're like, well, I babble and nobody's going to
Mhm.
want to hear or whatever. And I'm like, look, I find that I am a babbling brook as well. Hi, my name is Raven, and somehow 4,000 plus people want to still subscribe to me. So I think that the babbling is just us trying to find, those things within us that we're trying to get out. And my tendency to a lot is trying to fill space so that I'm still talking. And it is a segue from one thought to the next, which isn't ideal, but I've been to public speaking. I've done this in college. And my professor had said, is not a bad word. It's not really a word at all. It's just a placeholder. So just pause, just be calm, just do all the things. And what do? I a lot. And I don't realize that I'm umming until I go back and I look at my feed and I'm like, God dang it. I'm in,
I hummed
I'm in a
again.
lot. But it doesn't mean that I don't have something important to say. And it doesn't negate my value here in this world. So it's okay. It's okay to babble. You babble away. Babble up,
Oh,
buttercup.
that's
I'm right here for you.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and the one thing that um the one thought that keeps me laughing um is you have a choice as you grow older, and
Mm,
they your dreams as you grow older, there's some dreams that are just never going to come true. I never thought I'd own a house, and that was a dream I gave up probably 15 years ago. I'm
mhm.
not good with money. The price of houses in Seattle, in Western Washington, are
Yeah,
outrageous. I couldn't see moving, 2 hours away to buy a house and have that commute. So it was, and that was a dream that I was raised with. We
right.
were raised that you grow up, you get married, you have kids, and you buy your own house. Well, I
Hmm.
never wanted kids. I didn't want to get married, but I wanted my own house.
Hmm.
And, so I gave that up. And I've watched a friend of mine who I've worked with. I've worked with him for, well, I've been at my job for 37 years. and he's a smartass, and he will poke, he will punt, he will push your buttons because he thinks it's funny. And
Uh-huh.
so, whenever anybody new comes on, it's just like, just ignore him. He's going to push your buttons. He's like the little bratty brother you never wanted, you know.
You're like, don't look
And
him directly in the eye.
yeah,
There in the
just
corner.
pretend he's not there. And he's a couple of years. He's, I think he's 5 years younger, 3 years younger than I am. But I watched him as he started aging. He got really bitter. He got really
Mm,
bitter and really dissatisfied, and that just really struck me. And I finally told him, Mark, you got a choice. You can
yeah.
either be bitter and angry, or you can just let it go and find the humor, because if you're
Mhm.
bitter and angry, growing old is going to be miserable, and you're not
Mm,
going to want to live. And that's a shame, because not all of us get to live to be in our 60s. I
yeah.
lost a dear friend and coven member, and about, oh, her girls are all grown, probably 12 or 13 years ago. Her girls were 8 and 9, and she died of cancer. And
Oh
Carla never
God.
got that choice to grow old,
Mhm.
you know. And so I always kind of keep that in mind, that, when people tell you your life is a gift, your life is a fucking gift. Because no, we don't know, nobody's guaranteed to get another year.
Right.
And so you've got to, keep smiling, keep laughing, be kind, be gentle, be compassionate, especially now with that asshole in the White House. I'm not going to talk about him anymore.
Yeah, I hear
But
you. I hear you on that. No, it is
but
a thing where people are pulling out of their arsenal like the worst of themselves
yeah,
because it's like 2020 all over again.
yep,
Truth Talk came about just because we were going through that hardship in 2020 and just highlighting what other people are going through,
yes,
to just kind of be like, look, there's some safety in numbers here, and we don't all have to give in to this ridiculousness. But
no,
this time around, it feels like people are like ready to be cruel. Like they're just ready to be cruel. And it's like, do would you if you really broke it down, would anybody really, be yelling at you see people yelling at service people or customer service or, that type of thing. It's like, that person has a daughter or a sister or a mom, they wouldn't want anybody screaming at them that way.
yeah,
But yet, what gives them the right to feel like that is one going to solve anything and make that person want to help them? Because it does the exact opposite. And
mm-hmm.
then two, why would you want to punish somebody like that when they showed up to work? We're already short staffed by how many?
Oh yeah,
Why are you picking on the people that showed up that are just trying to earn a living? I just can't understand it, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings and we all have wants and needs, and we all have families or a cat, somebody to,
yeah,
take care of. Why can't we just back off of each other just a
yeah.
little bit?
I don't know. I will. I'm going to tell you a story. My biological dad, um, career Army, was a master sergeant, and I went and spent a summer with him and his wife in
Mhm,
Virginia. And I think I was 10 or 11. I was pretty young. And I was visiting him. He took me, he had a platoon. He took me in, when he reviewed the troops, when he woke them up and did the inspection and stuff, I got to follow him, and he introduced me to his platoon. And then I went in the office, and I was sitting in the corner coloring, and his CO comes in. Now, this is the 60s. And they said, he came in and he said, you can't call, and pardon my word, I can't call the N word an
mhm.
N word anymore. Um, and my biological dad turned around and said, I don't want them here. And he said, none of us do, but the big boss in Washington, D.C. is telling us we've got to accept him. And my boss is telling me we got to accept him. And as your boss, I'm telling you, you got to accept him. And I remembered that.
I bet you did.
And the fact that And it's sort of like this at work. We've got a general manager for the lab.
Mhm.
He does not like undegreed people. So he treats the instrument operators and lab assistants, we don't have degrees, we don't exist to him. He will walk right past, he'll go
Oh
talk to the
my
tech.
word.
Yeah. And that attitude's kind of filtered down to most of the rest of the managers in the lab. And
Wow.
that's what happens. JFK got in and his brother was working and they pushed the civil rights through and they forced people to
Mhm.
accept people of color. You can't do this. You can't burn their houses down. You can't kill them. And yes, it was hard. We haven't gotten anywhere near we should be, but he set the tone.
Yeah.
And people started realizing, oh, wait a minute, we can't do this. And they started behaving themselves. And the first time Trump was in office, I saw that shift. And
Yeah.
I told my friends, this is what happens when the person who is in power doesn't abide by
Doesn't, yeah.
common decency.
Yeah. Gives
And
people the license to just,
and
let it
that's
all out again.
and it was funny because years ago I was taking the bus, I was talking to an older African American man, and he had said, I said, what's the difference between living down south and living here? And he said, the racism's more hidden here.
More hidden.
More hidden. He said it's more out front in the south. And I really didn't believe him. I didn't
Yeah.
tell him that because that's he knows better than I do. But I thought, yeah, I think his
Right.
his viewpoint's a little skewed. And then Trump got into
Because you don't
office.
want to believe that the place that you're at, especially the Pacific Northwest here, is just so diverse. I mean, we're
Yeah,
part of the blue wall,
yeah,
right,
exactly. And you
right.
don't want people, you don't want to hear that your
No.
neighbors and the people in your city, because I do consider Seattle my city. You
Mhm.
know, would feel that way. But then Trump came to power, and I realized that that man was right. That
Mhm.
it's we still had a lot of work to do, and allowing somebody like him into the White House was the worst mistake.
Mhm.
And I've never, even though I was in Air Force Reserve, I was never a flag waving American. I was when I was a kid. And then I hit my teenage years, and the Vietnam War was going on, and I wanted to know why the fuck our guys had to go over there and die.
Yeah.
So that kind of stopped. I went into the reserves because I felt I owed our country something for the education I got and the freedom I had. But I was never a flag waving American, and I'm definitely not now. In fact, at
Still,
this point in time, I'm not proud to be an American. I don't
right.
understand how I got in the White House,
Yeah.
and I do know because I have talked to some of the, and it's funny, I've talked to some of the younger kids at work, and a lot of them voted for him because
What?
he promised them more money, right? The groceries are going to be lower. We'll get you more places to live. And I'm like,
But so was
and
Kamala. So was
yeah,
Kamala, but in a more
exactly.
reasonable outway. Like
Yeah,
she wasn't gonna lie to you.
yeah, yeah. She wasn't going to lie to you, and
Yeah.
and he did. And I think these kids have, in our area, have come up. They've gotten out of high school. Some of them have gotten out of college, and they realize they can't even afford an apartment.
Yeah.
So they're really, I think they're really disenfranchised with society as a whole. And I think there's a really huge dose of selfishness um,
Mhm.
in our country now. I think everybody's just out for themselves. Um,
Oh, the entitlement. Mhm.
yeah, entitlement that I don't care about you. I don't give it. In fact, that's what one of them said to me when I said, how can you vote for him? He's like, well, my 401k is happy and my bank account's happy. And I'm like, and I asked him recently, I don't always see him because I take odd breaks.
Mhm.
Excuse me. But I saw him the other day and I said, how's your 401k doing? Because I knew that stock market had dropped, and he flipped me off and walked away. And I'm like, oh yeah, like that's going to bother me.
Right, right.
But, so they're
No,
just,
but it is a wake up call. And,
yeah.
gosh, somebody was just like, oh, I feel so sorry for these people, or whatever. And I said, to a degree, I say, to a degree, I feel sorry for these people that voted the way that they voted because, well, one, thank you for voting. Thank
Yeah.
you for voting and speaking up. But when you vote and you haven't educated yourself on all of the issues that directly affect you and your family, shame on you
Hmm.
for voting that way.
Yep.
Just because your daddy or your pappy or your whoever voted this way does not mean that is the same. And it's so sad to watch Americans in this day and age, 2025, think that those values are still around. It is a different world. It is a different era in which we are living.
Yeah.
And I had posted something. It was one of my last like political posts because I just don't feel like I can, post transparently anymore.
Yeah.
I support my friends that do, but I've just decided not to. But it's like here they are regretting their vote, and I'm glad that they are. However, they've put us in this mess, and it is their fault.
Oh, it
I
is.
it's absolutely their fault that my husband might lose his Social Security benefits, that my husband might lose his VA benefits, that I might lose all of my VA medical because of that. And even though, like it's just so much, so that my husband, after being retired for almost 2 decades, may have to go back to work just so that we don't lose our house,
Yeah.
that our family, our kids from Texas are running from Texas just to get here at the end of the month so that we can pool our resources together so that we can survive as a family.
Wow.
This is not the American dream.
No, it's not. It's not. And it
It's not.
and just and I don't and I just the thought that they would because I've got my partner's son is disabled. He's on disability and he's on Medicare,
Hmm.
Medicaid, you
Hmm.
know. So, yeah, he loses that. He's going to be homeless.
Yeah.
And he's not capable of working. The poor is he's in his 40s, but he's got schizoaffective disorder. He's autistic.
Hmm.
He has explosive anger disorder. He cannot function in a job. He can't. He's never been able to.
Yeah.
And just
I,
and of course I'm looking at it retiring in a year. I was stupid with my money. I don't I All I have is Social Security, and the thought that it might not be there is absolutely frightening.
it's absolutely frightening. We are living in
Mhm.
this fear state where 2020, it was never this bad. It was never this bad. There was a very clear agenda. And it's sad
Mhm.
that the takeaway from any liberal or Democrat trying to educate a fellow person was that we were talking down to them. Honey, we were just warning you of what we already knew. We
Yeah,
were warning you of
yeah,
what was to happen. You just didn't want to believe it.
yeah,
And several people in my family and some of my friends are like, you're making too much about it. Oh, you were on TV, so you're being dramatic again. You're just, it's never going to happen. They can't do that. I've heard that from so many people. And I'm like,
yes,
they can because I'm smart enough, been to college, dirt, 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 dirt. That's the way that the government is set up. And when he goes after certain things to dismantle him, he's playing a playbook that was written by Hitler so many different times ago. And this is racism, bigotry. This is the beginning of Handmaid's Tale. Straight up, that's what they want. They want us to be overwhelmed. They want us to be tired. They want us to be desperate. Guess what? We're going to be angry.
yeah.
And
I
a
don't think
revolution is coming.
it is.
It is.
This. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's it.
Oh,
La
I
revolution. Vive la France!
Yes. I had told, I think I told a couple of people the first time he was in power
Mhm.
that I, and it started a while ago, I started seeing and realizing that what we were looking at was, and I don't want to be really dramatic, is it's the end of what it was.
Democracy as we know it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the end of
Yeah.
what was. And unfortunately for us, we're not in the end where it's all over with and now we get to grow it all again. We're right in the middle of the death throes. And
Yeah.
I think that a lot for me makes me realize why everyone's out for themselves, why they're so angry and so hateful, and why
Hmm.
targeting those people that they think they can get away with it. And I
Right.
don't think they realize um, that they're not going to get away with it. That
They're not going to get away with it.
they're going to have people in the streets,
They
and
will.
there's going to be there it I don't know if it'll necessarily be bloodshed, but
Yeah.
there's we're right in the middle. We're watching the patriarchy die. Unfortunately, like I said, we're not at the very end. We're kind of stuck in the middle where,
Yeah.
um, but I have faith, um, because deities told me that you know it's all going to wash out in the end, and what will come after this is going to be a more equitable world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
I
now this is our job. We get to live through the ugly parts, and
This is our job as we're aging to be
yep,
this for the next generation. I mean,
yep,
it is like that REM song, The End of the World as we know it.
we know it.
It
Yeah.
really is. It really is. And I think it was Kim who had said she had given me hope when I was not feeling the best because I went through a depression in November. I went through a pretty dismal depression in November because I saw all these things coming. I was watching way too much news. I'm still watching the news, but I'm looking at it at different lenses. I'm also got, pulling my cards, checking in with, spirit guides and ancestors and deity, as well as listening to some very good psychics, that are talking about stuff. And then all of the political people that are experts in their fields, all of them are just like, the things that he's doing right now is going to take us decades to get back. However,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that it has to go back that way. And it feels that this all needed to happen anyhow. So if
Yeah.
we can't buck it too hard because we need to have enough energy on the other side to rebuild. And that's where I think that us all pulling our resources together, checking in on each other, being that chosen family, standing up for each other, showing up for each other is so important at this day and age. There's a lot of people that can make a lot of noise and say, he said, she said, blah, 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 and then just bitch and bitch and bitch about the things. But the truth of the matter is, none of that, none of it really matters at the end game. We just got to be there together holding each other's hands, hugging through it, cry through it, whatever we got to do, because there is going to be a revolution. It's happening already. Just
Yep.
watching, the state of the, what was it? The address that
Yeah. State
happened
of the
on
Union or
Tuesday.
his first. Yeah.
Yeah. When was the last time you saw that kind of stuff happen
Yeah.
in the house?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me that, the Beatles isn't playing in the back of your head every
Yeah.
single day.
Revolution. Yep.
Yep. Sure enough
Yeah.
is. Sure enough is. We're gonna
Yeah.
get there. We're gonna
We
get there.
are,
It's gonna be hard.
and
It's gonna hurt.
it's going to hurt. It's not going to be fun.
Mm-mm.
Um, you know, we can, um, we can help each other out. We can be there for each other. Um, we can find things to laugh about, so we're not just mired in darkness. That's, you know, and what was I going to say? Dang it.
Yeah.
Yeah. it'll come back eventually. I'll call you at 3 o'clock this morning and go, hey, you know what I was going to say?
Yep, you got it. I'll be there. I'll be there asleep. Asleep.
But yeah, it's important to, I don't watch a lot of news. I will get up in the evening and turn on the news. I want to hear what's going on locally.
Mm,
That mostly concerns me. And I will listen to about 30 seconds. If they're talking about him, I'm okay. If they run a clip of him, I got to turn the TV off because
the
I
sound of his
just,
voice. The sound of
oh,
his voice is so
just
annoying.
scream and yell and stomp around. It's ridiculous. But what I do is I'll run down to my car about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'll take a break and turn on the BBC.
Uh-huh.
And I like the BBC. Um, so I'll listen to the BBC. I listen to NPR because they are pretty much, they'll give you both sides of it, right? I don't always
Okay.
like the view they're giving me, but I like that it's a more balanced view.
Yes.
And then, oh dang, what was there is, oh, I can't remember. I want to say Seventh Day Adventists have
Oh.
a news service or an online newspaper, and
Hmm.
they're kind of the same way. They just state the facts because they don't really have, for being a conservative Christian group, they don't really have an agenda, or they didn't used to. It's been a while, and I'll have to look that up and let you know what that is. But I do pay attention to the BBC. I do listen going to work. I listen to NPR because they do the Canadian um,
Yep.
news
Yep.
at like 9:30 or 10, something like that. So I do try to listen to news outside of the United States because um, you get a
A broader
different
view.
viewpoint. You get a
Mhm.
broader, and you actually
Yep.
keep an eye on what's happening, in the rest of the world, as opposed to thinking that America is the center of the universe, because it's not.
Oh, it's so
But
not.
but boy, I sure didn't expect this to go the way it did.
Yeah. Same. Same. I'm
I
watching one of the really wonderful psychic mediums that I love to watch is Sterling. So he's really good. And as this uploads, I'll put links down in the
Yeah,
description box
please
so that
do.
people can find some of the stuff. What I like about it is that his guides are also EI or extraterrestrial.
Oh, cool.
So he's getting the downloads from, his spirit guides as well as a cosmic kind of over thing. What I love about it is that it's not very like it's not a mystical situation. This is how I feel. Oh yes, I'm getting a vision. No, there's none of that. He's just like answering people's questions. He's like, yeah, no, I think that'll happen in March. Okay, next question. Da 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 da. Like it's just boom 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 boom, and I love it. I watch John Oliver because I love him. And if you've never watched the show Community, he was one of the professors on Community. He's a British guy. He
Uh,
is he came from Britain, but he is an American citizen.
mm,
But he is a great commentary, and he has his own HBO show, which I guess is Max now. But his YouTube channel is all free, so you don't have to have a subscription to watch him, which is
oh,
wonderful. And he breaks the news down in bits where you can easily understand the bigger picture and why, if this domino falls, how it will have an effect to this domino over here. Like he does a wonderful way, but he'll grab you with comedy.
oh, I
Like
like that.
he was even trying last season, he was trying to get Clarence Thomas to step down as a Supreme Court justice, and he was going to give him a travel art like uber fantastical RV. like, like Clarence, you can do it. Just come on over here. Like he's fantastic. Love him. PBS PBS gives really really good information.
Yeah, PBS does.
um, of course, I'm a CNN junkie just because I'm there for Anderson Cooper. Okay, don't judge me. Oh, but yes, I also watch BBC too, and then try to tune in to as much local stuff as possible. So here on the island, my island community, as well as Como, for Seattle, because that's also my adjacent community, and then also affects my friends like you. So I'm just like, what's going on? What's happening? Good to be well informed. It's just good to also take a break from it because, as my husband reminded me, he's like, I can't listen to all of this all the time. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Yes, I gotcha. I'm scanning for information so that I can prepare
Yeah.
because I'm a Virgo and
Yeah,
I can't
you
help
sound
it.
like Julia because she is a news junkie, and there have been times that I'm like, you need to go in your room and watch this
You got to
because
watch
I'm
it.
ready to put a fist through the TV. And she's like,
You and Bear are so
we,
alike.
she goes, oh, okay, we can turn on a movie. Oh, that would be good.
That would be good. And now would be the time. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now would be the time. You have pushed the Sagittarian to the point that I just want to burn it all down now.
Yes. I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. Well, this is generally around the time that we ask if there's anybody who is watching, if they have any questions for myself or for Cherie. We're gonna keep talking though. We've got another, I don't know, about 10-ish minutes to chat, and we can chat about everything. We covered the state of the political universe, which is not
Yeah,
great. I didn't see us talking about that, but it came out. It
I
just
didn't
came
either.
out. We talked about growing old. There is a wonderful book that we did for Sabbath Social Book Club called Moonshine Manor. Do you remember Moonshine Manor? Did you get to be a part of this? I think Kimmy was in this one.
I didn't know. I didn't
Okay.
get to read that.
Oh, well then I know somebody's, birthday, is coming around the bend, sounds like I need to get a certain book. If you look up The Witches of Moonshine Manor, the author, Bianca, I forget what her name is, she dedicates it to all of the women out there in the world. And she says, here's to growing old disgracefully.
I love that.
I love it
Yeah,
too. It's just a
yeah.
bunch of, older ladies in a mansion trying to keep it up and going. And, everybody has their own type of magic and they're fighting the patriarchy and and the local
Where do I
community.
sign up?
I
I want to
know.
do
I'm like,
that.
I love it. It's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah.
What else did we talk about? We talked about
The mess I made in my house, and
the mess you made of your
didn't
house
really
and
touch
renovations. Oh,
on the not being able to finish things. Um,
see, Lizzie's in here. She says, I love Moonshine Manor. I know. See,
Hi,
it's
Lizzie.
our thing. It is our thing for sure. Yeah,
But yeah, so procrastination will bite you in the butt. Um,
it does.
it does, and I just so I've just gotten to the point where I come home and I do one thing, like when Kimmy was over earlier today, and while we were sitting there, I went through a box, and then I'm like, oh, I started a new donation box. Oh, look, almost everything in that box is staying. So
Mhm,
I'm
mhm.
not being very successful at letting go of things, although it was electrical cord or charging cords, and I need to keep those to see if they go to something I own. Um, I because I have a really bad habit of like, yeah, I'll keep this, and
Mhm.
Kim years ago gave everyone in the coven these moons that light up,
Oh,
and
cool.
so there's a charger for that I don't know where it's at, but yeah, that's a whole nother talk of, you know, why can't you guys just make one freaking charger?
I think
Why do we have to have
eventually it
all
will
these
come.
different ones?
I think eventually it will come. Absolutely. Kim is asking, how about your craft?
How about my craft?
How
My
about your
craft.
craft?
Um, I trained as what when I trained as a shamanic practitioner. So
Okay.
I don't use that term um, simply because I think it's a little too loaded, and it's
Mm,
definitely, even though they've shown that shamanic tradition, or the things that shamans do, are universal. All people, when we were in small villages, we had the holy man or holy woman there. They did those things to us naturally. They helped us, you know, and so those are not just an indigenous um, tradition, but my teacher, towards the end of my training, became very concerned with cultural appropriation. So I don't necessarily call myself a shaman. I won't necessarily tell people that I am a shamanic practitioner, although I
mhm,
am. I prefer the term, and everybody laughs, and some people won't use it. There's a couple of different terms in the Norse language for what I am, and one of them is a vitki, which is just basically a witch, a wise woman. The other one is a vulva. Now, a vulva was the one that traveled around by herself, um, to different villages. She would go in, they, um, and they would give her a high seat, i.e., they'd give her a throne, and um, she would do something they call scythe, which is kind of trance work, and
yeah.
she would be able to mediate disputes. She would be able to help um, people. She would prophesize for them, and I'm also trained in scythe. So, and I did sit high seat a number of times, and it's pretty fabulous when the Norns come in, because they are wicked. Let me tell you. And so the Norns in the Norse pantheon is like the Fates. So, yeah, they kind of rock and roll. And I can tell you stories about my I had several initiations learning to do scythe, and one of those was going to the Fates, going to the Norns, and they were just outside of Helheim, and they had this giant friggin' cauldron, and they were standing around it, and they were stirring it and chanting and throwing things in. And so, you go you go up to them and you go, you know I'm here to be initiated um, into scythe, and the first one grabbed me, and I got a sacred symbol on my first initiation. So they made the symbol on my forehead, and then she spun me around and gave me to the next Norn, who did the same thing, and they impart wisdom, or they'll talk to you. And then she swung me around a couple of times and gave me to the third one, and I kind of went back around the cauldron. They did this 3 times,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, it was, and it was just, it was, I walked away from it going, okay, I don't ever want to make those women mad. Because they have like mother, maiden, and crone, right? They're three
Yeah.
different stages of life. And yeah, just the power coming off of them was phenomenal. um I The other initiation I'll share with you is the one. um so they did the major gods. So you did an initiation um to the Tree of Life. You did an initiation to the Norns. You did an initiation to Freya. And then the final one was to Odin. When I did my initiation to Freya, I'm walking through this field. I see her up there. She's got her cloak on, and she's got the spire going. And I walk up to her and I'm like, "Excuse me, lady, I'm here to be initiated into Scythe." And she just kind of looked me up and down and sneered, and she turned around and started to walk away. And I'm like standing there. Now, I will tell you, before I had all the training I had, I would have walked away and I'd have been
Yeah.
heartbroken. At that point, I was like, you know what? I'm 55
Uh-uh.
years old. Fuck you. And I ran around her and I stopped her and I said, "Lady, I am here to be initiated into Scythe." And she looked at me and she kind of smiled. She gave me the symbol. She gave me the initiation, and I came back out. And as we go around, they're like, "Is everybody okay?" They get to me, and I'm like, "Wow, Free is a bitch." you know, and they're all like, "You shouldn't have said that." No, she knows she's a bitch. She's a bitch intentionally. So
Hmm.
obviously, I don't work with Freya, but um, I am dedicated to Hecate. I am I am consort to Odin. Uh, so I have a matron and a patron from wildly different pantheons, and it
Would you call
works.
yourself an eclectic witch?
I am very definitely an eclectic witch. I am
Okay.
I'm kind of a traditional eclectic witch. So there are a lot of things I do
Ooh,
that I will say, no, you're not supposed to do that. You have to do it this way, you
right.
know. Um, and a lot of the knowledge is not stuff I've learned. It's stuff I seem to have came into this life with.
Mm,
Um, and I can tell you that we had a young man in our group, not in our group, but in our community
mhm,
years ago that had because I was doing chakra work at that point, and he came in and said, he's having trouble with his third eye. It was just blown wide open, and he was having all these visions. It was real hard for him to do mundane things. And so we worked to close that down and clean it up a little bit.
mhm.
And he had turned to me and he said, I keep getting a vision of you standing on a plane in England, um, and you're wearing a long white robe with a blue, like a blue tabard over it, and the wind's blowing, and you're holding a wand out. And he says, I realize that you're controlling the wind. So you've done this for generations,
Yeah.
which kind of, at the time, I was just sort of like, uh-huh. And yeah, a lot of, and then my teacher would say, you know how to do this. And I'm like, no, I don't. Yeah, you do.
You
And
do.
I realized,
Instinctually, you do.
yeah, yeah, instinctively I do. Yeah, it's sort of like the first time I did it. The first time as she was taking us up to learn to do soul retrieval, there are steps that she was taking us through. And I was working on a very good friend of mine, and we were doing energy clear, going out and clearing the astral body out, and settling everything down. And I was just like focused on her knee, and I was just like working and working and working. And the teacher finally came over, and she said, Cherie, just let it go. That's going to be soul retrieval level work. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's kind of like it's a learning thing, right? You learn that, oh yeah, I can't do that. There's nothing I can do with that until you're ready to let it go.
Till you're ready to let it go.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's a
because
very interesting because I've recently was in the fairy line and had seen some people come on. Um, and I'm not saying names because I don't want to start anything, but I do want to talk about a little bit of it where it was traditional witchcraft versus eclectic. That eclectic witches apparently don't know what anything that they're doing because they can't really stand in anything. Therefore, who are they even opening a circle to or praying to? And it's like, wow. To me, I mean, I'm just going to say this because to me, there's a lot of us that have religious trauma
yes.
growing up in the church,
Mhm.
coming through certain things or various abuses and things of that nature. I decided I didn't want to be a part of traditional witchcraft. Not that the things or the processes they were doing were incorrect. They just weren't for me because I felt like traditional witchcraft was a construct still of a man made religion. Because,
Yes.
yeah, because I feel like you don't really need any of those things necessarily.
Mm-mm.
I think that it's really good. Like the very first time I came in, back in 2014 is when I switched over to witchcraft, earth spiritualist, eclectic, whatever, green witch, kitchen witch, whatever, whatever you want to call me.
Mm.
And I had a reader said, you're gonna go through a bunch of training through Wicca, but you're not gonna be a Wiccan. You're gonna learn all the things that you need to learn, and then
Mhm.
you're just gonna do with it what you need to do. And I'm
Yep.
like, okay. And I'm ordained myself as an eclectic witch, so I kind of like, for my muggle friends, I'm just like, well, I'm kind of like a community leader. Think of me as like a
Yeah.
witchy pastor slash ghostbuster. That's what I am. That's what I am.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. But
So
so it's
yeah,
interesting to hear you have both sides of that too.
yeah, I when I started out, it was way the hell back in the 70s. And, I was walking around going, you can't be a witch. I don't want to kill animals, because that's what you saw in
Right.
Hollywood, right? You have to
Yeah.
sacrifice. And,
True.
and then I stumbled upon Sybil Leek's book, Diary of a Real Witch. And
Mm,
I just gobbled that up and was like, wow, there nowhere in her writings did she say you had to kill anything.
right.
And then at that time, um, the people, anybody looking for, because there was no internet, right? So it was all snail mail or phone calls. So they would write up these little slips of paper saying, looking for new coven members. We're a blah blah blah, and then they'd go to the library. In any of the mythology books or any of the books like that, they'd slip this piece of paper in it. So you go to the library, check it out, and I found that. Well, this one I picked up some book, I don't remember what, and
It's a
this
witchy
group,
geocaching. It's a witchy geocaching.
yeah, and this group was Egyptian, and I was kind of into the Egyptian thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I called them and I talked to the lady, and we met for lunch and chatted. And then the next time they had a ritual, they invited me, and I said, "What should I wear?" And she says, "Wear anything. We don't, there's no standard garb." And I said, "Okay." So I drove out to this, and I was living in California at the time. I drove out to this house in Huntington Beach and walked in, and everybody was dressed in these gold lame robes and these big
Oh,
headdresses, because they're all Egyptian, right? They're all into
yeah.
this Egyptian. They had converted their garage into a temple, and it was all done in golds and blues, and it was great. They had this huge sarcophagus
Wow.
thing, and they're walking with a crook and flail and the whole bit. And I'm standing there thinking, this is really cool, but it's so not me. It's
Hmm.
so not me.
Hmm.
And so, they invited me back. I said, thank you. I never went back. Not, just because it wasn't my gig. And
Right.
then I did, uh, I did the correspondence course from Yvonne and Gavin Frost, who were in um, Virginia. And, and then I don't know, I just kind of stopped. It wasn't, and life got busy, and I was always kind of the witchy one. I was always in the occult bookstores, which were always really dark and smelled funny because they had all these old books. But um,
True. It's so true.
yeah, it is. And then I moved up here, and I just kind of, I would pick up some books, and I do full moon, and my full moons were like 5 minutes, and I thought, I'm not doing something right.
Hmm.
So in early 2000, I found a bookstore called Sacred Traditions. It's no longer there.
Hmm.
And the two women who ran it, one of them is still a very good friend of mine. Um, but the other one started witchcraft classes. So a friend and I did that. That's where I met Julia. And we went through beginning and intermediate, and the third round was, you had to join your coven, and I didn't like some of the people in her coven, so I didn't
Did do that. Yeah.
and about 6 months after that, I had posted on Facebook, wasn't around, must have been on AOL, one of the boards, that I wanted to go to the CFAB powwow. Was anybody interested in Julia? who had also taken classes there, had said, "Yeah, but the last I knew, Julia was joining the coven." So when we went, I finally asked her, "So how's coven life?" Well, she got kicked out of the coven for questioning people, and I'm like, "Well,
Love it. I love a rebel
that's
witch.
yeah, that's what happens with a lot of traditional covens is it's a cult of personality, right? It's not,
Yeah.
and so she got in
And if we
trouble for
wanted this many
questions.
rules, we'd go back to church.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
we Julia invited me up to her house for full moon, and a couple of months later she formed the first coven, which was Coven of the Blue Moon Spiral. And I think it lasted about a year before one of the women who didn't want to call it a coven, didn't understand why we had to call it a coven. Um, I discovered she was manipulating everybody
Hmm.
in the background, and there was a big confrontation, and that was the end of that coven. And surprisingly, maybe part of what prompted it is Julie and I did a public ritual down at this little bookstore in Renton called the Venus Moon, which is not there anymore. And this woman had an issue with the fact that it said Coven of the Blue Moon Spiral was putting on this ritual. And Julia said, "Well, it was Cherie and I." And she's like, "Why was it just you and Cherie?" And Julia was like, "Because you guys didn't want to do a public ritual." And it just
Yeah.
sort of went downhill from there. But that Julie was down there doing tarot readings, and so that coven died, and like 2 months later she started classes, and we had, at one point when we were first formed Coven of the Crow Heart, we had like 25 members,
That's awesome.
which is huge. um, it has shrunk to there's just four of us in the coven, but we're so tightly knitted together.
Yeah.
um, I don't know if we could admit someone new. We did admit someone that I was really excited to come into the coven. She had taken Julia's classes. She got within a week of joining and turned us down. Uh,
Hmm.
and she came back, and I was really happy. She's a fellow Sagittarian. I understand her on a level that I don't know if you have this knowing or this relationship. I understand this woman on a level that you would think we were lovers, and we're not.
Okay.
We are so similar. It's frightening. And I was so happy to welcome her back. And she lasted about 2 months, and she found a man, which I understand
Hmm.
but this man apparently didn't approve of her witchcraft ability. So she quit.
Oh,
And, and it was too bad, and I was very heartbroken about it, probably more than most people realize. But I felt really bad because I got angry about it, and I let her know I was angry about it. And so she blocked us, or and but I felt really bad because her best friend, who they'd been friends for years, but he's male, had to tell him she couldn't be friends with him anymore, and she cut him out. And I was just sort of like,
like what?
wow. Yeah. And she just disappeared off the face of the earth. So we haven't had anybody since. It's just been, Jillian and I, Lex and Kimmy, and and now we get to do stuff with Sabbath Social. Kimmy led a beautiful, beautiful ritual at the annual picnic this past year
Yeah.
that just I would bring tears to your eyes.
Oh, I know.
I mean,
I've been really blessed that we've had all of you, because all four of you have been a part of Sabbath Social outings. And the way Sabbath Social works is everybody is welcome to the table as long as we respect each person's path and
mhm.
all of that. We're there to have fun. We're there to go to sacred sites together. I was able to do that with you. Kim did a beautiful ritual while we were in Belize. Do you remember?
Yes. Yeah.
That was amazing. So as we were amongst the pyramids there in Belize, we got to do an honoring of our ancestors and a ritual there on the grounds. So much so that our tour guide was like, "What are y'all doing?" He's like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God." He's like, "Nobody else has done that." He's like, "That's so beautiful. And thank you for doing that."
Yeah.
But I mean, it's so wonderful to be able to get together with like-minded individuals. We don't have to be exactly alike, but we get to have tea together. We get to, do happy hours, go to sacred spaces, watch
Yeah.
crazy movies that have to do with witchy stuff. Like we just
Yeah.
I mean, like it's just been good. It feels like we feel like an extension of you, or you feel like an extension of us, because we
Definitely.
just all love each other the way that we do.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. In
just cool.
fact, at one point about a year ago, Lex is like, "Are we becoming a? Are we going to be? Is our coven going to become a part of Sabbath Social's coven?" And I'm like, "Well, they don't say they have a coven, but
You're not kidding.
you know."
Nope,
And
nope.
it's
We don't
okay.
have it coming.
That's a term. They're just all words.
They're all just words.
They're all
Yeah.
just words. So I
In
but
order to be in a coven, you have to believe exactly like
well,
those people. So I feel like sometimes, like, I won't interject or whatever because it's not my place and it's not my teaching, and I am so free form that I'm like, I respect and I see everything that they're doing. I just don't want to get in the way.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm eclectic because of who I worship, but
Hmm.
what I do, I mean, one of the first rituals I ever did was to Kali Ma. I
Mm.
took because I was a Buddhist at one point. I took um, a um, a service they do for green Tara and converted it to a full moon service for green Tara.
Mm. Wow.
Uh, so I'll whatever works. I do the druid thing. I've done the very first course in the OBOD. Um, so I hold a bard level with them, but I'm part of the ADF with it, which is, I'm going to slaughter this because it's Celtic. The Archdrufain, which is a group of um, druids here in America. They have kind of they're based here in America. I like them because you just anything goes. They don't have dogma set down. They
Interesting.
do have a court order, a ritual. You should acknowledge this, you should acknowledge that, but it's
Mhm.
not, it's pretty freeform. You can do whatever you want. And and the only time you have to follow the court order of ritual is if you're doing an ADF ritual. Then they ask that, because there's certain elements that people know, you do them, oh, that's ADF, but they're very free willing. And they're or he used to be their arch druid, was up in Bellingham, you know, and stuff. So I just kind of do a little bit of everything. So it just sort of depends on, I one of my allies that show up from time to time is Marie Laveau.
Ah,
And so I will dabble in voodoo, because a lot of the voodoo practices, if you take the Bible out of it, um, is very much practices our ancestors would have done. It's very root work. It's very what do they call it? It's stuff that the farmers would do. It's not, yeah, you can do that and attach it to the Loas and use the Bible, or you can pull that. In fact, one of the last, just recently, we made what they call tobies in voodoo, which are packets. And a packet is a piece of paper that you write down, and then you add shells and herbs, and you fold it up, and then you tie it up, and you drown it in alcohol, which is great. And then once it dries, like we did protection packets, then you carry it on your person.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I will, if somebody does something and it looks interesting to me, I'm going to look it up and I'm probably going to do it at some point. So I'm very eclectic. Um, and neither one of my deities have ever said you can't do that. The only thing I've ever had either one of them say or do was I got mad at a friend because he was dating a married friend, even though that wasn't right. And I told him I didn't think it was right. He then forced her to tell her husband that she was having an affair, and she had two young kids. And,
Okay.
so she shouldn't have been doing it anyway, but forced him to tell her. She told her husband. And so then she had to move out into the fifth wheel sitting in their driveway because he didn't want her in the house when he was there. And then my other friend promptly broke up with her a week later. And I'm like, you son of a bitch, you had her wreck her life so you could walk away from her. And I threw a curse at him. I hope you are by yourself the rest of your life. And I was standing in my kitchen, I was just like wham, and turned around and Hecate is standing there and she's just looking at me. And I'm like, okay, I
What?
really didn't mean that. And she reached out and she made this like sweeping motion. And I realized what she did was she took the charge out of that curse, but
She
she
did.
allowed that energy to hit him. And my friend immediately he did not call me. He called her and said, Cherie threw something at me. I'm like, yeah, you son of a bitch, you deserved it.
Right.
That's the only time my deities, either one, have come up and said, you're not doing something right. And that includes, um, and I will tell you, I will curse. Um, so far, I've just cursed corporations. Um, I curse.
I love it.
I will curse you if um, if it warrants it. My guidelines for that work is if harm has been done and the person has tried legally, um, and culturally to get recompensation or to get this resolved and it's not worked, then I will
Mhm.
curse.
Mhm.
you and I don't believe that's wrong. You don't curse when you're angry, and you don't curse for money, so I won't take money for it. But that's always been because I thought, what am I've got I'm I hope this does not come off sounding arrogant, because I'm certainly not, but I'm pretty powerful, and I view it, and I kind of view myself as a protector. And so if someone comes to me and they've been wronged, they've been hurt, and they're not
Mhm.
getting any help, I'm going to help them. And if
Mhm.
that means I've got to curse somebody, okay, I will. I don't have any problem with it. Neither do my deities. And that's
I
and
Yeah,
and
I
that,
know that the younger generation, generally looks down upon us older witches that, kind of take matters into our own hands. I'm one that will definitely do a return to sender. I will
oh yeah,
definitely do a return to sender. I do protection spells. I don't necessarily do love spells because I'll do self love spells. I think
yes,
that's different. But there are people that have come after me for doing protection spells because that is controlling the other person. I'm like, but you put an alarm on your house, right?
yeah.
And you buy yourself insurance, right? In
Hmm.
case something happens, like that's just something that you do. Thank you, babe.
That's
I Is there something you need? Okay. I was given a chocolate. I was given a
oh
chocolate. Um, but I mean, these are things that I think as a mom, as a wife, as a homeowner, as a pet owner, as somebody who wants to keep my job, as some people, like there's certain things, barriers, trenches, um, things. There's placements that we put within our life that create these boundaries that of
Hmm.
acceptance or of things that we don't want within our practice. And I am always going to be that person that says that there is no one right way to witch. It is a very personal path. And this is why I myself don't follow traditional magic, because I find a lot of hypocrisy in it.
Oh, there,
And
yeah.
I find that there's a lot of ego.
Hmm.
There's a lot of agenda that
Yeah.
does happen in that. Now, I'm not saying that everything that they're teaching is, inappropriate or anything. There's a lot of really good information that you can get from traditional magic. And if that's what you're being called to do, then go for it. I'm
Yes.
just over here doing my thing. And I'm not going to be told that I'm wrong, because it is a personal path. So nobody gets to pick what personally works for me, what deities I should follow, and who I am connected with. And nobody can
Hmm.
take away those conversations that I've had with those deities, spirit
Exactly.
guides, ancestors,
Hmm.
all of those things that I've done is just as valid as any other pope in a pulpit.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. And
We
yeah,
do have a couple
I always
questions,
tell people I'm a witch. I'm not a Wiccan. So
right?
you're worried about what you send out comes back threefold.
Yeah. I'm not
You
that
got the wrong
person.
idea. Karma doesn't work like that. It's a
Karma
cumulative
does not work
effect.
that way. No, no, no. We've got a couple of questions. I'm sorry that we're getting to it a little bit late. We've already kind of
Sorry.
come towards the end of this chat, but I'll bring them up here. And if you feel like answering them, one, I do not even know what it means. So maybe you will, because I've not studied that. But here's Miss Lizzie. She is one of our Sabbath Social members and friends. Can you see that on your screen?
I can't. It's really small.
Okay. It says, I love you, Cherie. Can you tell us more about psychopomp?
Oh, psychopomp is helping dead cross the veil.
Mhm.
And it's a service that almost all witches used to do. It's it, and you just basically go into a trance. You have to let them know that, okay, I'm open for business, because once you start doing this work, these people will show up all the time. This is
Hi, my name
something
is
that,
Raven. It's
yeah,
hard. It's
yeah,
really rough.
that that I think this is something witches used to do on a regular basis.
Mhm.
So that's what psychopomp is. And I will tell you, you do it for humans, you can do it for animals, because I've had several dogs, a cat, and a horse show up when I opened up. I do my psychopomp Friday mornings for about an hour. I usually have humans show up. They're never, um, they never, I state, some people get so fixed, some spirits will get so fixated on how they die that that's how
Mhm.
they'll show up. I don't want to see
Mhm.
the blood, guts, and gore. I don't want to
Yeah,
see you that you laid in your apartment for 14 days before anybody found you.
thank
So I
you.
just stayed
Yeah.
up front. You show up in spirit form. You show me your essence,
Hmm.
and they usually show up. And sometimes they just don't know. I mean, they know they're dead. I've had one guy who wasn't sure. He thought he was. And I said, well, you're dead. He's like, okay, I thought I was, because nobody's talking to me. And
Oh,
he was just real easy. You just guide them across. You do not go where they're going. You'll go, for me, it's a shore.
hmm.
And I always laugh, because the Christians always want to go to the top of the mountain so the angels can come down and get them. And so I'll walk them most of the way up there, and I stop and tell them, you've got to go on, and then they'll go up, and I usually turn away because there's a bright flash of light, and they're gone.
Uh,
Other people will, it just sort of depends on what they believe.
yeah.
I feel really sorry, because I get a lot of Christians that weren't very religious, but they believe, and they're like, I'm afraid to go. Why? Because I'm going to go to hell. Well, what the hell what did you do?
What
And
did
then you
you do that
find
you can?
out that, I cheated on my wife, I stole from this, and it's sort of like, I got to tell you that as far as I know, your God forgives you. He
Yeah.
loves you and he forgives you, and you're
Yeah.
not going any place but where the rest of your family is. And then
Yeah.
there, but I found that just absolutely appalling that there were so many Christians that were afraid to go to make that final journey because they thought they were going to hell over, you know, even if you've murdered someone, depending on the circumstances, we're all capable of
Mhm.
murder given a really rotten set of circumstances. That's just something that's just how it is.
Yeah.
But I was really amazed. I've been really amazed at the number of Christians that are afraid to go because they feel like, oh, I backtalked my parent. I mean, it's trivial stuff. Oh my
Hmm.
God, how many, you know, it's considered a sin if I yell, God damn it. Do you know how often I've said that in my life?
Right.
you know,
Right. That is
so
a thing.
that's what psychopomp is. It's really easy to learn. Um, it's actually one of the easier talents to do. Um, you just have to be prepared because, I did it before I was ever trained. The very first time I had it, I was laying on my couch in my apartment one Saturday night and the news came on and I just hadn't changed it. And this was after the Iraq War. And
Mm,
we had some contract employees over there, and there was this young man, and I've forgotten his name, that the jihad or whoever had taken captive, and they were demanding whatever. And his family kept saying he's such a nice guy, and all his coworkers were like, "Oh, he's so nice. He's always cheerful. He's always helpful." And he was this big burly guy and a beard, and kind of a beard. He just looked like the nicest guy. And the news was they had beheaded him. They had turned the video over to the authorities and then left his body out for them to claim. And I thought, it's
mm,
so bad that this man seemed like such a powerful force for good in our world and you killed him. And I'm laying there thinking that, and all of a sudden, I know he's coming out of my bathroom. Now you have to realize my bathroom in my apartment was a portal, and it took
mhm,
me years to figure that out before I shut it down.
mhm.
But anyway, he comes out and he's starting to walk towards me in the living room, and I'm absolutely petrified, thinking he's going to show up without his head. It's going to be all. And I turn around and I said, "What do you want?" And he's like, "Oh, I want you to tell my family you're okay." You know what? I can't do that because if I call your family out of the blue and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, so and so showed up to me and they just want you to know he's okay," they're going to think I'm a nut. And
Yeah.
it's not going to do them any good. It's just going to make their grief worse.
Yeah.
So the best thing you can do is go ahead and go on to your final reward, and he just disappeared. And I had no idea what that was until you know,
Mm.
I had psychopomp training. I'm like, oh, I've been doing that anyways. Yeah, you know. So
Oh, okay. One other question, and I'm not even sure how to pronounce this. And Mumix, welcome to the channel. Not seen you here before, so welcome. Thank you for watching. It says, what should a depressed nihilist do?
nihilist? I don't
Yeah,
know
I'm
that
not
word.
sure. Nihilst, nihilist.
Huh.
Now I feel like I
I
need
don't.
to look up nihilist.
Yeah, because I don't know. Is
Yeah.
in
What does it say here? Hold on, now I gotta put on the other glasses. Hold on here.
okay.
Nihilst. I think that's it. No. L-S-T. Did I get it? Did I not get it? Lord, this is the other thing about getting old. You have a set of glasses, but then
Mhm.
you're not sure if they're really going to work for you. Okay. Ah, being the belief that life has no objective meaning or purpose, moral nihilism, belief that nothing is morally right or wrong.
Mm.
Yeah. So when somebody is depressed and not knowing which way, to kind of go with things because they don't believe in either one of those things. Hi, honey,
Yeah.
Outlet Moon. Nice to see you. What would somebody do in that state? I guess I'll try to go first. Is Oh, that's hard. I mean, like, that's hard because when your faith is not really faith in anything, do you just do faith in self? And then you just move according to what makes you happy or stay away from what makes you sad, or things of that nature. But if you're in a depressed state already, then wouldn't it also stand for you're not seeing things clearly? Because you're in a depressed state.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. You're only seeing one side when you're depressed. I mean, I've had depression all my life, and I
Same.
will tell you that pharmaceuticals work.
Mhm,
Um, so if the depression is ongoing, you don't have to go to a psychologist. You can go into your GP, to your primary care doctor,
mhm,
and tell them that you're suffering from depression,
mhm,
and they'll put you on an antidepressant. It'll take about 2 to 3 weeks to work. Um, the other thing, I guess, um, even though I'm a witch, and that is everything I am, I'm never not a witch. Um, I never, I never thought to treat my depression from a spiritual point, because for me it's a chemical imbalance in my brain. So I need medicine. Um, Part of what led me to Buddhism was the belief that the world is suffering, and you can mitigate that by meditation.
mhm.
And and I did find that to be,
Trying to raise energies for certain things.
yeah, I mean, I did find that to be true, that you know I could go. I went to a Zen temple, which is, yeah, it's rather uh, formidable, I guess I'll say. I did go to a Zen temple, and I struggled with meditation at first, and then once
Mhm.
I got used to it, it was real good. In fact, um, so yeah, and not having any, yeah, yeah. Like I said, I never treated my depression. I mean, unless their depression is a result of their belief or non-belief. Um,
That's a tough question, right?
that's a very tough
It's a
question.
tough question because if you don't know where you stand with certain things,
Yeah,
and you don't have that moral compass, then how do you navigate that? I will say that meds are a personal choice, and there are
yeah,
people
they
that
are.
choose to get on them or don't get on them. And there's a lot of different ways, like Cherie was saying, that you can get on them, or if you choose to get off of them, you can always go to a professional that will help you. And nowadays it makes it so much easier that you don't actually have to go into people's offices because there's really good care now available online. And that
Yeah,
could be something that you can talk it through and just try to find something that works best for you to just at least find a path. Where is your starting point? And then work from there. That's
yeah,
all I can think of.
yeah.
Because,
I
yeah,
think
I know when
that's
I
it.
went into therapy after several years of not being in it, and Cherie, you've known me for a good long time. And I do go through bouts of depression and anxiety. I get overwhelmed. I have a lot of past trauma that I've shared here on this channel, and I've got good days and I've got bad days. Most of them are good days, but there are times that I'll have to cocoon. There are times that I just
Hmm.
can't. Like, I do not recharge with people.
No, I don't
In
either.
fact, if I'm in that state and I force myself, even with my very close friends, if I force myself, I will tilt it to the other side and I start to become physically sick, I start getting very drained. I'm no
Mhm.
good to anybody and I'll start a downhill spiral. So I know that when I'm
Yeah.
in that way, I need to make sure that I have that down day. You know, the day where you don't get dressed and you do your laundry and you catch up on all your shows or do a puzzle
Uh-huh.
or
So you
read a
stay in
book
bed all
or,
day and read.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. That's
Yeah.
self care. That's
Yep,
self
that
care.
is it's self-care. Because
That's self care.
I'm the same way. Yeah, if
Hmm.
that's why I will sometimes, and sometimes it's a lot longer than I want. There's sometimes I just disappear. I haven't been,
Yep.
I haven't been on social media. I haven't been on talking to, our chosen family, for probably the last 3 weeks or so because it's just I've been dealing with a lot of stuff and
Yeah.
I self isolate because that's what I do best.
That's what you do
I
best.
know.
And sometimes we do it because we don't want to bring people down. And
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes we just don't have the space for anything else because it's
Hmm.
literally our brains are full and we
Yep.
cannot do anything more. We
Yeah.
just can't. But I remember when I first went into counseling, I didn't even know who I was, what I liked, what I didn't like. Like it
Oh.
took, like I had a
Yep.
self loathing that was so deep
Hmm.
that it was really difficult for me to understand what
Yeah.
I wanted in this world. And it started with me just literally going back to the garden because I know that planting things makes me happy. And from there, I was able to get grounded enough to go seek some sort of talk therapy, some sort of something, because I know that's
Yeah.
how I do it. I started writing things out, burning them,
Yep. Yep.
all
Me
the things.
too.
Just got to get rid of it. Got to get
Yep.
rid of the poison within.
Yeah. I've told a
Yeah,
lot of people, write it. I write a letter. I don't know if it's to yourself, to your mother, whoever. Write that
right.
letter, fold it up, stick it in an envelope, stick it someplace where no one else will find it if you have somebody else in your home, and you're not allowed to open that for 6 months, you know,
Hmm.
and then open it, read it, burn it. And if you
Yep.
have to do that and do that and do that, that's fine. But I've done that. I have done that a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah, you,
Oh
you know,
gosh. Well,
I know we went way over your
we
time here.
went way over. We went way over, Miss. I'm nervous. I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm not sure I have anything to contribute. Uh huh. I see you. I see you. Cherie, I love you.
I
I
love you
love
too,
you,
Raven.
my sister from another mister.
Yes, indeed.
Um,
You are my
you are
sister.
chosen family, and I thank you so much for coming on and talking about these things like getting old because I'm feeling it, and I know that I think that with my diabetes and the life that I have survived, I feel a lot older than my actual age. You
Yeah.
know, like I know that that's a thing because there's like a what is it? There's a mental age and a physical age.
Yeah,
I
there's
don't
even an
know.
emotional age. So yeah.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
Tired.
I know that feeling well.
There's, there's I'm 80. I'm definitely like up there. I am definitely up there, and that's okay. That's okay
Yeah.
because I just want to rock it with as many people like you as possible, and
Yeah.
we're just gonna live our
Exactly.
best lives. It doesn't matter.
Yes. No, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It
Thank you for
doesn't.
having me on, Raven. I
Of
enjoyed
course, of course. You're always welcome back. You're always welcome back. And if there's
well,
anybody out there that wants to be back on Truth Talk, if you've been on it before and you want to do like, where are they now? Because it's been 5 years since we started this whole thing. And so there
oh,
are
that
some
would be
people that are
cool.
coming back around. Or if you're brand new and you want to be on Truth Talk, just reach out to me in the comments below. You can also get me on ravenflowerwest@gmail.com. We can do those things and we'll see you next time. I believe next time we have Anthony. So,
Ooh, been a while.
Anthony, this one's a good one. I know. So we've got a younger man. He's like young. He's still in his 20s. Do you know that? I love it.
Oh,
I love it. So yeah, Anthony is married to the my good friend Nathan and co-founder of Sabbath Social, and he's got a pretty awesome story to tell. So I'm excited about
cool.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woo!
Well,
Okay.
all
Anything
righty.
else you want to say?
No, thank you very much.
You're
Love
welcome.
you all.
Love you too. Have a good night or a good morning wherever you're at.
Bye bye.
Bye. Cherie, you stay there. Do nothing.
Okay.